Oh, rightio. Right then, here we are then, ladies and gentlemen, for the DSL Racing League, a classic car racing league, I may add, on F1 2020 throwback of the century, I'm sure, for those who hop in. Come say hi, come have a look, have a nosy at these old F1 cars going around this beautiful Zandvoort circuit. Tonight I'm joined by a very good friend of the channel, a very good friend of all the drivers on the grid, AJ, the SP laser guy. So come say hi, Monsieur AJ. Let us hear those dulcet tones. There he is.
Oi, 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 oi. What are we doing on 2020?
Mate, this is a throwback.
I forgot this thing was a thing.
My God, this is a throwback if I've ever seen one. One of the best Formula 1 games in my eyes. They all went downhill from here.
100%. You know, the funny thing is, you say that, this massive nostalgia for me. This was the last game that I was good. Like, it's just
the last game I had pace.
You know what I mean? But no, it's great to be.
That just took the words out of my mouth. Speaking of pace, speaking of things that are quick, can we well appreciate the old Formula 1 cars here as we watch Doc Strange come around the top of the hill in that, is it the R26? I think it is, Renault?
It's something like that. I think it's the R26 or the R24, one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. Either way, shape or form. That engine.
The comment I was going to make
phenomenal.
Is, like, normally when you're doing these, because I say I've done a lot of commentary and I'm very used to the kind of the spectator mode on F1. Now, the cars always sound a lot quieter. Like when you're not on board. When you're on board, they're loud, and when you're off board, you don't hear them. This thing's screaming at me, even though I'm halfway down the straight.
Everywhere, isn't it, sir? It is very much screaming. And here we go. Doc Strange is about to start the first lap of the short qualifying session. 18 minutes, I think, is on the clock as Doc Strange goes into turn 1, getting hard on those brakes. Brakes very much different from what they used to be. A little bit of tripe from Sir Smokes. Well avoided there. Into turn 3, turn 4. The banking. What a corner this is. Great corner. Not so much in these older cars, mate. Oh, it looks scary. It looks terrifying. I couldn't imagine driving one of these cars around the circuit, mate, in real life. It must be an incredible drive. What a feeling this must be for the drivers in real life to take one of these old cars around. It's phenomenal.
These are a lot lower than the standard ones as well. So like you literally that crest, like coming out of turn 3, you've got about 3 crests before you get to the next corner. And imagine not being able to see over any of them.
No, it'd be terrifying.
Frightening.
Absolutely terrifying.
Given the traction of these as well, there's not as much downforce on them. And it's very, very easy to get the newer cars sideways on multiple parts around here. God knows what you're doing to do on throttle with a V12.
I think you just shut your eyes and hope, don't you? I think. For the majority, just shut your eyes and hope to God when you crest that hill, there's nothing stopped.
Jesus,
yeah, absolutely. Doc Strange across the line then. First lap of this session, a 1:16.283. I have no idea whether that is good, whether that is bad, or whether that is ugly. Not a Scooby-Doo, but we will find out as more guys are out on circuit. So we've got Delboy, we've got Fatal Shots, James Mason, young man indeed, on an outlap as well. Sterling just about to start a lap. Current championship leader, as far as I'm aware, is our Sterling. He has been dominating in his classic cars, it seems, very much to his liking. It must be his age, very much showing.
That's it, he's going to punch you in the face for that, I realise.
More than
no, like I say, luckily for you, the one bonus about having me with this stream is, as you know, I'm always ever prepared. I actually have the league table up in front of me.
Oh, so that is why you are here, mate. Run us down. Sterling takes his car around.
Do you know what I mean? So Sterling is top of the table at the moment with 68 points. He's the one man that everybody considers to be the GOAT of these classic cars. He can tame them at night like no other, it seems. James Mason is a little bit, about 9 points to drift. So he's on 59. Senna himself, the man, the myth, the legend, is on 50, so it's another 9 points back. Fatal Shots then comes in at P4. He's on 40 points. DSL Smokes is in P5 of 38, so a nice little battle between him and Fatal. And Delboy, who I believe is the newest member of the league. In terms of the guys that has actually got points, so he hasn't been in as many races as the others. He's already up to 20, so he's currently holding P6. Now we have obviously Angry Table and Fatal Shots, Angry Table and Doc Strange in today from the community. So Doc, I know for example, has been scrambling to get his game downloaded. So it's a good effort from him. There's a couple that didn't make it.
Indeed. Yes, unfortunately so, I think we are missing Dick Van Dien tonight, who is currently trying to get his game installed as fast as possible, but couldn't make the ETA on when we got started on Exotic Planes, which I'm sure, as much as the drivers all will love that young man, I'm pretty sure they'll all be happy to not have him on certain, because he has wheels, he has go-go juice. Speaking of go-go juice, DSL Senna pumps in the fastest lap of 1:13.9.
He does, yeah.
Look at that man has apparently got a point to prove tonight. His recent F1 form hasn't been the greatest. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that, and I'm sure he'll be the first one to admit himself that his almost robotic consistency we all joked about has kind of lost him a little bit on this recent game. But I know a lot of drivers have had a hard time with the handling model on the newer game, so it's to be expected. Senna's not the only one. I know there's a lot of drivers in the F1 leagues that we run have had a hard time getting to grips with the new handling model. The car's been a little bit heavier, a little bit more understeery. You know, they've been fun to drive, but not fun to drive sometimes. It's a little bit of a catch-22 in the newer cars, but what these cars, phenomenal. What a piece of machinery.
Exactly, yeah, they don't make them like this anymore, that's for
sure.
They really
don't.
But yeah, no, I echo that. I think there's a lot of people that have struggled with the new cars. I think they were always going to, both the real life drivers and obviously in game. You're going to feel that. I think I think I'm in the minority where I think it's actually benefited me a little bit, because that's how I like my cars generally. That's what I'm used to in terms of my racing background and stuff. But I think you're right. There are a lot of people that are kind of not say sort of struggling to adapt to these cars, but they find them very, very difficult, and they drive very, very differently.
They do indeed. But I think it was a it was a hard little transition from the game prior to the newest one, where the cars wasn't as understeery and had a lot more nose. I know which is a rich comment coming from myself, but the old cars,
I wasn't going to say it. But...
Yeah, I mean, I'll beat you to it, so you can refrain from the nose joke. But the cars from the last game had a lot more nose end, a lot more pointing, a lot less understeer. Whilst these newer cars, they don't have as much nose, don't have as much turning, a little bit more understeering, which can, the understeer can then create, excuse me, apparently my voice tonight is not wanting to play ball with me speaking, but that little bit of understeer on entry can then cause so many issues up on the mid corner to the exit, because you lose a little bit of time on the understeer, then you go to overcompensate for that lack of time that you've had because of the understeer. Then you put the foot down, wash of oversteer, lap ruined. You know, they're a very hard beast to tame, the newer versions of the Formula 1 cars. But these things, speaking of beasts to tame, honestly, it still blows my mind that we have the Formula 1 cars that we have now, with all the safety that we've got on board, you know, the halo, all the carbon fibre, all the panels on the Formula 1 cars now, where they are built to last, aren't they? They're built to take a shunt, regardless of how many Gs, how fast they're going. And I've got nothing but humongous respect and kudos for any race driver who drove like cars like these, which have very little safety elements on board, really. You know, which is why they've now changed. But I mean, was these V10s? Was they AJ? I think there was.
These might even be V12s like this.
I'm trying to. Yeah, it sounds very V12.
This was around like 2000. When did Alonso win his championships? 03 and 04.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's still V12 era.
Yeah, which is what a noise.
And the funny thing, I don't think these times do it justice, because obviously we see quicker times from guys in the modern cars around here.
Yes.
But I think that's just because of the nature of the Zandvoort circuit. Don't forget, these are still grooved tyres back here. They had to groove the tyres to slow these cars down, which is mind-boggling.
I can't imagine these cars on slicks.
Could you imagine what they'd be capable of? Right, that'd be disgusting.
Well, Didn't Fernando Alonso take this exact car for a lap or two around the Abu Dhabi circuit prior to it being adjusted? And I'm pretty
I
sure
believe
he had
they
slicks on that
specifically
as well.
said-
Yes, they did.
Oh my god, that man's brave.
They put a set of red banded soft tyres on that car, and Charles Leclerc I just pressed my menu button like a force of habit, and Charles Leclerc took a few laps in a older Ferrari, I believe, around the same circuit. The newer layout though, around Abu Dhabi, and they gave him a fresh set of soft compound tyres for
Could you
for that
imagine
Ferrari.
like a set
And
of slicks on the 2004
looked-
Ferrari? Oh,
First of all, car looked incredible. Secondly, sounded unbelievable. But thirdly,
I bet.
usually when the drivers get a chance to drive one of these older cars, at this point now, they're a national treasure to the sport of the older Formula 1 cars, so you won't get many chances to give the full beans. And Charles Leclerc very much got the window of opportunity from Ferrari. He said, look, cars turn up to full, it's on soft tyres, throw it around. And by God, did that young man throw that Ferrari around. It looked incredible. I would highly recommend anybody who is a Formula 1 fan, racing fan in general, to hop onto YouTube at some point tonight, find that onboard, and watch Charles Leclerc rag an old Ferrari around on a set of soft tyres. It's a phenomenal show. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of finding things, people are finding time. Doc Strange has found a couple of attempts. He remains P6, but he took a good 2.5 attempts out of his best time, so he's right on the verge of the 15s. Angry Table found about half a second. He's now sitting on a 15.8.
Great stuff.
Fatal's found a heap of times. Fatal's just banged in a 15.7. This is starting to heat up this quality session. Obviously, it's starting to ramp up in terms of the grip. Now, obviously, everybody knows that's played this game and driven the classic cars. These tyres you could drive around here for weeks. The tyre wear on these classic cars and on the tyres is pretty much non-existent. So this is probably as close to time trial grip conditions that you're ever going to see.
Absolutely.
It's just a case of you limited purely by the fuel in your car.
Yes. Ooh, speaking of Doc Strange, he's had a little bit of an off, a little bit of a spinala. Looks like coming out of the final corner onto the straight on the banking. Easy to do. I'm sure we've all fallen victim to that. Now this is the one thing here about the older cars. It has the turning circle of a cargo ship. Is what it does. Doc has had to make at least 4 adjustments there, back, forward, back and forward to get that car turned around. Kudos, Doc, for getting off the racing line, mate, as your car came through. Great stuff. Great stuff indeed. Ooh.
It's going to be nice timing for Fatal. No, it's not, because Fatal pulls in through the box.
Oh. Let me hop on board with the man, the myth, the legend, as you said, the organiser for this very league and all the leagues you will see and enjoy on the Twitch channel, DSL Racing League, and over on Facebook as well. The links are in the description of the channel on the Twitch page. You will find the socials and the Facebook page there. DSL Senna, the owner of the league, of the Discord, organises the majority of the events that we partake in, and he does a sterling job, no pun intended there, but he does a great job on his own, getting everything organised, getting everything out into the open, events organised, races organised, social media posts organised and put out there. He does a fantastic job. Can't fault him enough.
Yeah, he
He's
does.
very much engaging his inner rebel fan here, weaving around down that home straight into turn 1. That is some tyre warming if you've ever seen it.
It is, yeah. So luckily you can put a lot of heat into these tyres. But it's nice to know, going back a couple of sentences, that you dropped your pronunciation of organising as quickly as you unleashed it there. But no, he's a good lad. He's been around the communities for a while. It's now nice to see him heading up and fronting up a kind of a community and an organisation of his own effectively. So it's very good to see.
And it's great to see him grow as well. I enjoy seeing good people, nice people, getting opportunity to just get a little bit of exposure, get a little bit of growth, and then start to see the rewards of the work that he's putting in. And I would like to think that he's seen some form of reward for what he's putting in, and also the stresses that comes with it, which, myself and yourself more so knows how stressful it can be. Organising leagues, standings, championship standings, the whole 9 yards. You yourself knows how frustrating that can be sometimes. So doing a
Here he goes
great
then,
job.
thundering into turn 1. Now, this is
Take
just
it
a
away.
weird one. On this game, it was very, very beneficial to get as close to the apex as you can. Interestingly, Senna opting for the 2022 line, where you give it a little bit of a berth. Doing his inner max Verstappen around the top end of the actual loop there as well. Maybe it's put off by the car in the air, but didn't see who it was. This is a fantastic section. Oh, basically flat. There's a little shade of a lift. Sneaks a big portion of that curve, rides the exit really nicely. He's opening up all these corners just to carry the maximum amount of speed through. Now this is another apex. This can be deceiving. You don't really have to hit it to get a good run on the way out. Get it over to the left as quick as possible into the final stadium section. This curve can knock you 4-6. Horseshoe left follows up. Get it over to the left-hand side. Open up this final corner onto probably one of the most glorious corners on the calendar, to be honest. Driving through here flat out must be very impressive in real life. Doesn't get really right up to the wall though, but a little bit cautious, but it is enough to go quicker, and he's found a couple of temps there.
Has indeed a 113.7. Great lap. Indeed, let's go a little bit further down. We've got Sterling, who I think has run out of fuel. He has. Sterling has run out of fuel halfway through sector 2, boys. So if you can hear me, you'll have a slow-moving Renault into the final sector. Del Boy spotted it. Well done, sir. Well done, Sterling, mate, for getting out the way nicely. Things we do love to see.
James has found a couple of temps. He is now into the 113s by the skin of his very, very young teeth. So he's now into the 13s. Sterling might need a beach buggy the way he's going through that gravel.
Absolutely, he is very much
struggling
to
Del
get
Boy's
that
about
cab.
to start a lap. Let's see what Del Boy's got. So he's been finding a little bit of time.
Indeed, through turn 1.
Yeah,
Nice.
very similar line to Senna, interestingly. He doesn't use as much to the exit.
Throws it in there, brave. Taking a little bit of
Much
that inside
tighter.
curve there.
Yeah, it's much tighter in the banking as well for something. Gets it straightened up a lot quicker.
The old school line, I think that is. You know, get the car running deep, square it up for the apex on the exit, nice and tight. Oh, that is a phenomenal corner. It really is. One of the best corners for me. Absolutely pins it at the top of the hill.
But I have a lot of faith in the car to do that as well. Just rather, because the game tells you to brake. You just got to have so much faith that the aero of lifting off is just going to slow you down enough to just throw it in there. So,
very much a case of please stick. Please stick. And in these newer cars, as we mentioned earlier, that little bit of understeer.
Del Boy a little bit speed on the exit,
Validated.
power down a little bit too early and went a little bit wide on the exit curvage from Del Boy.
Things you don't want is a little bit of extra curbage. That is for certain. Well, that lap's invalidated. I don't think he's going to get around. He has got around to get another lap in right at the end. Del Boy could sneak in an absolute top tier lap here. Can Del Boy pull out an absolute blinder on his last flying lap of the session? 115.6 currently. We'll have to find a handful of time to contest with the boys.
Else is out front. Doc's running out of fuel, so it's not going to be him. So Angry Table is going to be the first one to come across. Let's see if he improves. Currently on a 15.8. He boxes.
Table goes.
So Doc, is he going to complete? He got enough fuel in that car to get it across the line. He does. Doesn't improve though. Who's next? It's going to be Fatal on a 15.4. Doesn't find any time either.
So,
I don't know why the Australian came out in either there, I apologise.
I've no idea, mate.
But here comes Del Boy in the stadium. Oh, yeah, shall we? We're down under in Zandvoort. Del last bit of banking to go then.
Full sending.
Doesn't brave the exit wall. But can he find the time? He does go quicker, but it's enough. I saw a 15.5, I don't know exactly whether he got fatal or not.
P5.
I think that's where it was. So I think Fatal was, yes, it was. So it was literally just shy of Fatal's 15-4. So run down. Senna takes pole with 13-7. James not too far away on a 13-9. Sterling job. Pun definitely intended on a 14-7. Fatal on a 15-4. Dell 15-5. Doc Strange on 15-7. Angry Table 15-8. Even Smokes isn't a mile away. On a 16-0. So
16-0-5.
this could be a nice, cheeky little fight here.
Mate,
especially
excited.
from 4 to 8 are very, very close.
Definitely.
And Senna and James very close up front. Sterling will likely want to get involved with one group or another. Maybe not the group of 4 or 5 behind him, though. You want to be jostling with the top 2.
Massively. And one thing about these cars as well, no ERS. Oh, speaking of things you'd like to see, Monsieur AJ.
Oh, it's a little bit wet.
It is very wet. I feel very sorry for the chaps now. Before, I was jealous. Got watching them fly around, voice break of the season, of the stream. There we go. That is 1-0 to me. I'm 1-0 down on voice breaks, but yes. I was feeling very jealous.
And you're not in the corner. The Senna's not in the opposite corner, so
that is
going
true,
down
so
this early in the stream to a voice break.
It's a losing battle.
But
I was jealous.
This not only looks wet, this looks sodden.
It does.
This looks torrential.
It looks crappy. It's what it does. I was very jealous of the boys in the dry there, just watching them go around that circuit. Because Zandvoort is a great circuit to drive. For racing, sometimes it's not the best in real life and on the game. Sometimes the gaps can just get a little bit nullified. But over one lap, it has to be one of the most satisfying circuits to drive. Just the bankings, the dips and flows of the circuit, it's 100%. Unbelievable.
We almost had a year-long fight. It was me, Leroy, and Blue Fox of literally just setting time trial laps around here, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I can't recall whether we got a formation lap. Yes, we have. So let me get up all my gizmos.
We do, because it does say lap 0.
Lap 0 of 36. Now, these cars in the dry are a handful. They really are. More so when the car's a little bit heavier. So this in the wet is going to be a challenge for everyone up and down the grid. Speaking of grids, if you are just joining us and you have missed the rundown of the grid, I'll give you a quick 30-second rundown. Whilst we're here, there's only 8 drivers to run through. So we've got DSL Senna P1, James Mason P2, Sterling P3, looking to capitalise and make the most of his lead in the championship. Fatal Shots P4, Delboy P5, forever a nuisance on circuit in the best way possible, that is for certain. Really hard to get by, defends very well and attacks even better. Not a man you want behind you, not a man you want in front of you. Doc Strange P6, Angry Table P7, Sir Smoke sat in P8, although I don't think P8 is representative of how quick his time was. He set a decent lap time, did Sir Smokes, a 1:16.054, which is very much in the fringes of the 15s, which to me is a very good lap time indeed in these cars.
100%.
Not easy.
Yeah, and as we saw from the list, sort of separating P4 to P8, so it's Fatal, Dell, Dog, Table, and Smokes, so only about half a second. So it doesn't do it justice. I have to say, Doc has been testing the traction, so Doc has had a little wobble. I think
get out the way
he got away with it, but no, we're gonna
we saw it.
And it's interesting. It's interesting that you put a hard T on Renault, because it's almost like Renault crossed with boats, which is quite
well, unfortunately, I am very northern. And when I say the word Renault, the T is... Oh, God, that's the second voice break of the night!
There we go, that's 2-0, baby.
2-0 down in the first 15 minutes. Right, well,
it's a bit like Man United the other night, isn't it?
Absolutely. I will take away the first lap and a half, sir, and then we are welcome to converge upon each other after this. Because we've got 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's very much a drive-through penalty for James Mason off the line. Things you don't want to happen in the race start is getting off the line too well. Is that Senna as well? With
Senna
a
as well.
drive-through
I was just
penalty.
about to say that.
Pack
Yeah.
leaders getting a drive-through, so that is put Sterling. Basically now he gets a free lap one, can just roll through the grid, let them both box, maintain the lead. Sterling P3, Fatal Shots P4, into the banking we go. Drivers looking cautious and careful. Naturally with this big engine in the back of these cars, the rear is going to be all kinds of loosey-goosey on board now to Anchor Table up the hill into the first really fast corner. Not so much in the wet but in the dry, that is for certain. You can throw the car around there. Sir Smokes up one position off the start line into P7. Doc Strange got a little bit of a wobbly start. I think he was a little bit overcautious. Naturally so, conditions aren't very easy. So we're going to go back up the grid here. Senna, James Mason going to be serving a drive-through penalty. Lap one, I would imagine the smart thing to do is get it out the way now so you can focus on the rest of the race. Sterling, as I said, now just got to sit there, do nothing stupid, get up the back, and then take P1 away. Thank you for coming, boys. Facial shots under pressure massively from Del Boy behind, coming in to the banking onto the home straight. Del Boy maintaining nice pace through the apex. Brave on the throttle, very brave indeed. He's got that pinned down to the floor. Ooh, a little bit of contact with the wall there. Love tap on the way through, letting the wall know that he loves him and appreciates him massively. Fatal shots appears to have either DC'd or having a little bit of issue with his connection. Not too sure there. He's currently ghosted. For me, is Fatal. Sir Smokes having a rough old time at the back of the grid here in these wet conditions. Again, naturally so. These conditions are hard in a modern Formula 1 car with a lot more downforce. So these boys are in for a hard time for the first few laps. That is for certain. Doc Strange, let's get up the positions changed. Let's bring this up. Oh, Doc Senna getting all kind of wobbly coming up the hill there. Almost caught that. Great catch there from Senna. Why can't I find positions changed? Apparently this old game is very different to the new one. I can't. There it is. Woohoo! Top tier.
Yeah, it's also busy sorting
itself
itself out.
James getting all kind of power slide. Woohoo!
Yeah, the game's sorting itself out. A lot of them are having it. Sterling nearly went up at the
Absolutely.
top of the hill at the end of sector
Absolutely.
1. So a couple of these boys really struggling. And just as a throwback to, you said you were calling Fatal under pressure from Dell and Angry Table going down this, or was it Doc and Angry Table coming down the straight. I was on board with Table, so he was the third car in that line, and he cannot see a thing. The visibility behind another car is horrific.
Very lackluster. You could say.
I believe it.
What's interesting here is further up the grid, James Mason has opted to try and get a little bit of a gap and then serve his drive through on the third lap. Not too sure whether that's the smartest choice to do, because Sterling is only 3 seconds behind him. So he's going to get the lead regardless. Me personally would have boxed. Oh, James, get off the grass, you absolute nutter.
I think it's a lot smarter of a decision to stay out when you've got like a full grip.
Yeah, oh man, I'm so sorry to cut off AJ, but Senna is up the gearbox of Sir Smokes up the hill. As you said, visibility non-existent, picking a breaking point, nigh on impossible. Round the outside, looking out. Oh, that's going to be brave and bold. And almost very beautiful there from Senna. Sir Smokes goes in a little bit too deep. Going to get a run into the next corner. No, opts to tuck in behind and follow him through. Smart choice there from Senna. These cars are not going to get slowed down. That is for Sir. Sorry to cut you off there, mate. Got on board with Senna. These are still going, still very much there. Oh, that's brave. Getting on that exit curve in these conditions. Very brave in these. Down the inside, maybe. Oh, bottleless.
No, absolutely no quarter left by Smokes. He left him a car's width and no more. Senna was like, I'm having none of that.
Oh, I'd have been.
But yeah, it's great dicing. I mean, this is going to bring back my point. Like I say, normally you'd want to get it out of the way straight away because there's not a full grid, so you'd have a. You'd like to think you'd have clean air.
No, exactly.
Whereas normally, like with a full grid, you're trying to pick a gap. And that's what I thought Senna was doing, is just the fact that, right, well, I know I haven't got a full grid, so I'm just going to pick the clean air. But he has found the back end of Sir Smokes here,
Indeed.
And James has massively benefited because he's just served his drive-through. He is now 3 seconds up the road from Senna. How did he miss smokes there?
Back on Boston here. That is a great run out of the bank. Let's get on the broadcast camera here up this hill. Look at these two phenomenal looking bits of machine. I cannot express that enough. What a beautiful car these really are. What a marvel of engineering that entire era was. Oh, Senna getting a massive wash of understeer into the entry there with these wet tyres, not offering much grip upon the early laps of this Zandvoort classic car Grand Prix, but got the overtake done, position gained, jobs are good, and up the grid we go. James Mason now, young man, hounding the back of Del Boy, who is very much caught in a three-way sandwich here, AJ. He's got angry table up front, fatal shots up front. Del Boy gets all kind of squiggly. James Mason, great run, great exit into the bank, and he goes down the inside, space given. Great move from the young man there. Del Boy not giving up here, though, AJ, not giving up at all, looking to make. I can't see a thing behind this. How Del Boy seeing, I have no idea.
This is what I was saying. Yeah, I mean, this is getting very interesting, very opportunistic from James. Fatal had a bit of a moment coming through the banking, which has allowed Table just to get away a bit. James drifting round turn one. And this is, it's very opportunistic from the young man. He nearly got Fatal as well, because I say Fatal had a big old moment. Did well to keep it out of the wall coming through the banking, to be fair. Big snap.
Big snap.
You've got to be so careful, especially in the wet.
What this requires, a little bit of patience, a little bit of experience in these conditions. Short shifting and minimise the traction on the rears. Get it short shifted on the exit, be patient on the power, and be patient where you want to make the move. In these wet conditions, it's so easy. All it takes is missing your braking by 5 meters, and you are not getting that car stopped.
Yeah, you're not stopping it. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Let's go further up the grid here for a moment. Let's have a look at the leader, Sterling. As I said, very much happy and content in P1 because the leading pack both got drive-through penalties. Now I'm curious. Go on, sir.
Sorry to cut you off, mate. It's now 1-1. James had a little bit of a poke down the inside. I don't think he was ever seriously going for the move. It's one of those kind of half little moves that you do and hope you make the guy brake late. That's exactly what has happened. Fatal, as you said, has missed his braking by no more than 5 meters, and he's had to cut to the gravel, so he's dropped all the way down to P6. So a relatively easy pass for James, even though it wasn't kind of a super intentional on it. That's more of a mental overtake, that, isn't it? You you put yourself there and you make the guy miss.
Yes, absolutely, mate. Sometimes the art of attacking us, we've got a yellow flag somewhere. Once it through sector 2,
yep, Doc is once more pivoting the Titanic. A very awkward set of the
track. A little bit of a hard time. You know, again, not to be expected. These conditions are hard work. These cars are hard work in the drive.
Especially so for our Doc, because we literally found out he literally hasn't played this game on wheel. He literally downloaded it. Maybe the download was done about half an hour before we started.
Oh, so bloody hell, brave boy!
He's very, very brave.
Oh, brave boy.
But poor old Doc, he's going through it a little bit.
No, huge kudos for that, Monsieur Doc. That is some cojones.
Senna now really cranking up the pressure. He's already back to James.
Speaking of cranking the pressure, Sterling has lost a big chunk of time up the front of the grid. Angry Table is closing quickly. To be honest with you, he's very much. Sterling getting a little bit of wash there, mid-corner to exit of oversteer. That is terrifying. It's what that is. I would not want to be in that car as you feel the rear slowly coming around out of that banking. Brave boys there keeping the car
pinned. That is a very fast change of fastest lap. Angry Table took it, then James immediately followed by Senna. So this very, very quickly is going to become a 4-way fight. I will hedge a bet.
It's going to become a 4-way scrap indeed, mate. I think you do love to see is a 4-way tussle between cars. Speaking of tussles, Angry Table again. He's got a mega run here behind Sterling. As I saw Sterling get a little bit of a wobble on turn 1 exit. Very easy to do in the drive. Very traction limited exit because it's such a narrow apex. You want to get the car as straight as possible. Get the wheel as straight as you can, as early as you can to get the power down. That is a yellow flag again. Doc Strange, mate, keep going, buddy. Keep that car on circuit, out the walls, mate.
Yellow flag might just
Absolutely
save Sterling here because this is going to be all the way towards the exit.
It is indeed no overtaking.
He is going to be vulnerable.
In yellow flag. Speaking of vulnerable, James
I was going to say
he's going to be
vulnerable into the stadium. James trying the same mental overtake. Angry Table keeps it on the road. He's pinned in tight. James gets the run around the outside.
It's a great run. Speaking of great runs, a little bit further behind me, DSL Senna had snuck up on the back of this back of car, said, "Hello boys, I'm still here. I want to be involved. I am the boss of you all. Let me have some fun." He can't see a thing. Can barely see the back of that Renault. That is certain. Going just tucking behind here. Oh, Taylor gets all kind of wrong. Goes in far too hot there. He's
I tell you what, he's done very well not to hit James.
Very well indeed to get on the
I think he
brakes,
caught Senna
off the
out
brakes.
as well. Senna was busy watching what was happening in front of him. He missed his braking point by a little bit. But as I said, this is a four-way scrap, no doubts about it. Senna's got a great run. There's no real way to go through this section though. It's pretty much a one-car line.
Oh, what a camera angle that is. We are being treated to there, ladies and gentlemen. Camera angle, the top of the hill, watching two cars fly up that hill around the bank. Del Boy, that could pay massively at the end of this race. 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Easy to do in the wet. Very easy to do indeed. Is not fun, mate. Speaking of not fun, Sterling being absolutely hounded right now by James Mason. James Mason has the bit between his teeth. These tyres must be nice and bedded in. Sterling is having a hard time getting that. Oh, a little bit of wobble there from Sterling up on the exit. James Mason going to have a run into turn one. Possibly second gear, get the throttle down nice and early, third gear, fourth gear. Listen to that V12 scream in your ears. What a phenomenal sound. No errs in these cars. It's all race pace, race power, and absolute go-go juice. From James Mason round the outside into turn one. Brave boy indeed. Little bit of wheel bang is still going sideways. Woohoo! Power slide. Mario impression for no reason whatsoever. Great move there from James Mason around the outside. What a move that was. Brave. Brave, bold,
very brave.
And
say a little bit of contact. Probably give him a little bit more room to work with there. But you said the word phenomenal watching these guys. Senna, he's now in P3 while you were focused on that little battle. I was on board. This man went around the outside on the banking, and him and Stable went through side by side for those two corners. So Senna up to third, and James had already pulled a 1.5 gap out. Sterling really not having fun.
Not having fun. No, he's not having fun indeed. I'm not sure whether that is wear and tear from wear and tear, or he's just having a little bit. Naturally, again, such a hard condition to drive in a modern day Formula 1 car with a lot more downforce. Let's not forget that part of these older cars. As you mentioned earlier during the session during qualifying, the new cars have so much downforce, and
they're on rails.
It's so easy to lose them in the wet. So I can't imagine how easy these are just to lose mid-corner. We're seeing a lot of drivers tonight so far making a lot of minor corrections during the corner because, as you said, not as much downforce, so that little bit of correction is needed in these cars. Speaking of correction, DSL still looking to maybe correct that. Ooh! Both cars getting all kind of squabbly and squiggly out of turn one exit there. Both drivers looking to
unbelievable seeing these cars that it is able. You're able to drop it while saving a previous drop. It's bonkers.
It really is. Really is indeed. Speaking of bonkers, mate, Senna is all over the back of round the outside up the top of the hill. Things you want to see. He was pondering. DSL Senna was really pondering there, making a move there, but that would have been great to see. But a little bit further behind there, buddy. Angry Table lurking in the wakes, looking to capitalise on these two having a squabble. Also with Del Boy sat there watching him. Del Boy has a front row ticket
He has,
to
yeah.
Andy
He's
Table,
slowly sort
DSL
of crept
Senna
up
and
to these
Sterling.
guys as
Yes,
they've been
indeed.
scrapping.
He's, like I said, just looking to sit there. Sometimes during the race, I think a lot of drivers focus on too much about getting past the car in front, rather than what's happening with the car in front. And 9 times out of 10, mate, if two cars are fighting in front of you, all you've got to do is wait. All you've got to do is wait, because they are going to lose time naturally, fighting each other, dumping batteries to defend, dumping more battery to attack. So the cars in front are going to be slower. Speaking of cars in front, mate, Senna down the outside, it seems, of Sterling. Great move. A lot of space given there from Sterling. He has given Senna room and some very much respect shown there from Sterling. He's given Senna at least 3.5 cars width on the turn 1 exit. That is very generous there from Sterling, mate. That is huge kudos. You can be a lot favour there, buddy.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I think he had a really solid defense there, Sterling. But I'm wondering if in this wet conditions, with the traction, limited traction that these cars have, I'm not even sure. I think the outside is maybe the better line. Force the guy to go defensive and then take him on the outside with the more grip. We've seen it so many times in real life with people like Hamilton, and it's the go-kart kind of the casting line, isn't it, in the wet, that always has a little bit more grip around the outside. So I'm wondering if, sort of, especially with the nature of turn 1, I'm wondering if the best opportunity actually you line up the overtakes to go on the outside. We've seen people pinned into the apex and not really be able to get the power down.
That is something we will keep an eye on as the cars go into turn 1, whether they are opting to, as you said, take that outside line. Because you're going to be a lot better on the traction as well, on the outside line, not making the corners tight, not making the car be as squared up upon the entry and on the exit. So let's keep an eye on that.
100%.
Keep an eye on the table here.
Yeah, because we've seen it twice already. So both James and Senna did Sterling around the outside of turn 1. I mean, admittedly, there was a little bit of contact with James and Sterling, but that's 2 cars that have gone around the outside of him. So it'll be interesting to see whether he puts that defence on against Table again, because it could happen 3rd time in a row.
Indeed, mate. Well, as I ride on board with Angry Table, the man, the myth, and the choice of conversation for the moment, let me take 30 seconds to look at our chat. Real quick, sorry for this chat. I've neglected you this entire time. I've been watching and seeing you all talk, but I've been focused on watching these beautiful Formula 1 cars go around this fantastic circuit. So evening to everyone in the chat. Sterling, I know you're racing now, mate, but welcome in. Who else we've got Angry Table, yo, mate, hope you are well. Silver Hedgehog, mate, hope you are well, buddy. Faces we do love to see in chat is Silver Hedgehog, that is for certain. One Kidney Gaming, the Joker, the Jester over the Discord, very much a wind-up merchant in our Discord, mate, hope you are well. The Curtly, hope your evening's been going fantastic as well. Mate, hope you're all enjoying watching these cars go around.
He's the newcomer. He's the newcomer to the league. He is taking your seat in the Haas. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So he's Dick Van Dien's new teammate.
Well, I hope you treat my Haas with love and tender care. She has been a royal servant to me this season. That is for certain. Mate, speaking of royal servants, Delboy here, just sitting behind these 2 guys, waiting for a chance to. Is it getting more wet? Or am I
I think it is. I think it coincides with what Hedgehog's just put in the chat. Hedgehog is determined for us to say Senna's favourite word on stream.
Oh, moist.
But every time he says it, it seems to be getting a little damper.
It does. You know what? I will be happy to mention Senna's favourite word around this glorious Zandvoort circuit. Right now, the track conditions are difficult. They are very hard indeed, and you could say they are very moist. I'm gonna say it. They're very moist indeed. I can't tell whether I'm seeing, like, the rain looks like it's stopping, but the spray on the camera lens makes it look like it's getting wetter. But I think we are drying up here, mate. It looks like it looks like it's drying up a little bit.
That was going to be my next comment there. So normally there was a decisive kind of line forming, wasn't there? And now that's disappeared. And I can't work out whether that's the entire track's got wet again, or now the wet parts have got dry. As Sterling and Table do a little synchro drift competition coming out of the stadium. That was very nice to see. He also, he
Very
cannot
much
get that
speaking
back
of
himself. Can
things
he?
that are nice to see here, mate. Delboy was almost pushing Angry Tibble through sector 3 there, but has lost a little bit of delta on the exit of the banking. Not close enough. Again, down the inside maybe. Or again, as you mentioned earlier, AJ, just putting your car in a position to make the driver think in front has given him a chance here into turn 3 down the inside.
But even with that, can you
smart
see
move
how
from
much
Delboy.
stronger that outside line is, though?
Indeed.
He made Table make the mistake, and he still had the balls to drive around the outside of him. So I think if you're one of these guys, you've got to start thinking, you know what, actually, I want to be on the outside of turn 1. So you've really got to hope that the guy kind of defends to the make him defend and then rang around the outside.
Mate, I wholeheartedly agree. Now, whether or not the drivers hear that and think about that, that is a different thing. And mate, it's looking dry. We all know how F1 weather works. If it was on this game, it was Jeff. But if Jeff says to you it's dry in 5 minutes, it's dry in 3 minutes. That's
100%.
how F1 weather works. There is no
A few people
accuracy at all.
A few people have bit the bullet as well. So P5 and downwards are on dries now. So Senna, Smokes, Fatal and Doc, they are all on dries.
Here
I knew
we go.
you wouldn't have your tyres open.
I
had
didn't.
my
I
tyres
had
open.
positions changed. Is what I had. I was maintaining that little stat for. Oh, speaking of things, bit deal Senna making the most of that grip there. It very much looked like they were driving different cars there. The amount of grip there from Senna on these drier compound tyres, that was insanity.
And
that
the
cartoonish.
funny thing is that I don't think Dell was pitting. And then he's just seen Senna just scream past you. He's like, okay, yes, I'm boxing.
Yeah, it's like, no worries, mate. I'll have me some of that. Now, one driver hasn't pitted yet. Angry Table out on the wet still. Maybe now ruining that chance a little bit. To maybe get in the pit box there. But one lap shouldn't hurt him a lot.
Look at the undercut that Senna's pulled.
That's
He found like
incredible.
4.5 seconds. He was 3 seconds down on James Mason. He's now 2.8 up. That is incredible level
Really
of grip.
is. Now, Angry Table here having a little bit of a hard time keeping these wets. What's going to be happening now for Table is these wet tyres now are going to be getting hot. They're going to be doing the entire opposite of what you want them to do. Because in the wet, you want them to get a little bit warm, get a little bit more grip, disperse more water. Perfect. But in the dry, these older wet tyres, not so much the newer wet tyres on the more modern cars, but the older grooved wet tyres. As soon as they get overcooked, they're gone. Just sliding like driving on pancakes. Just horrendous. Really not fun at all. But he's done well there, his Table, to get this car around the circuit in one piece, get into the pit box now, get those dries on, and absolutely full send for the last 14 laps of this Grand Prix. Well, a little bit more than 14 laps, but you get the gist of where I am going with that. Speaking of people who are going, mate, Senna is absolutely flying at the moment. That's insane.
Yeah. I thought the tyre delta was just purely because he was on a different tyre, but mate, that time is shooting up. Whether Senna's just because he pitted that lap earlier, he's a nice and toasty while these guys are still warming theirs. But yeah, James is still shipping tons of time to Senna. He's nearly 4 seconds behind.
4 seconds behind, indeed. As you said though, mate, Senna's had that extra one lap to get him up to temp, get him not so much bedded in, because as we mentioned earlier, these older tyres, these older grooved, these what are they? They won't be. Are they Bridgestones? They won't be Bridgestones, will they?
No, they're Michelins.
Michelin's. Ho, that is a throwback. And
because we're on the Renault, aren't we? So if we'd have been sat, because I always remember, because it was the infamous that US Grand Prix. Do you remember when it was just like Minardi, Ferrari, and Jordan? They were the only Bridgestone runners, and they were the only 6. Everybody else banged on a set of Michelins. So the Renault is firmly in the camp of Michelin.
Indeed. See, Delboy had a little bit of a moment on circuit, got onto the grass, had a little bit of a, oh, get off that exit curb, you absolute nutter. You don't want to be on there when your tyres are overheating and cooking. Right, well, whilst the gaps are a little bit tame right now. We'll have a little look at chat. We'll have a little nosy. I've seen some names, some faces, some familiar faces in this chat at the moment. Coded Agent. Some moist conditions. There was indeed exotic plays. They commented to us, making me tear up. We're getting flashbacks to the BFL days, mate. That is some nostalgia. That is for certain. Absolutely loved the BFL days. Great to drive in, great to watch. Things that we do love to see. What we got else going on here? Tracks. Try and get them tyres changed in Zoom. Absolutely. As Exotic has said there, Senna has gained 5 seconds on James, almost 4.5 is the respective gap between both drivers. Sterling in P3, which I would imagine Sterling's a little bit miffed off, to put it politely, being sat in P3, because both guys in P1 and 2 got drive-throughs. Senna served it early and was way back of the pack. James Mason opted to serve it on lap 3, but still mid-pack. After serving his penalty, Sterling had a good lead, strong lead, but wet conditions, for me personally, it might be different for every other driver, but for me, it's rhythm in the wet, and all it takes is one corner to completely upset that rhythm. And to me, that's what it looks like with Sterling tonight. He had good rhythm in the wets, was maintaining a healthy gap up the front of the grid. But then a couple little mistakes, and then there you go. Rhythm, kaput, gone speed. Such a hard thing to maintain. It's just that little bit of rhythm. Speaking of rhythm,
it's weird, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Because
especially
the type of guy that Sterling is. He always looks very settled. As of late, it just doesn't seem to. I don't want to say he doesn't have the ability, because he's got all the ability in the world, but it just doesn't seem like he's ever lucky enough to get settled and get kind of where he wants to be and get comfortable with the circuit. There's always something happening that's throwing him off. He doesn't get into his normal kind of like settled and consistent mode, because he's definitely a consistency driver. I put him in the brackets of like a Senna or myself or you, where once we get settled, it's very consistent, very kind of
metronomic,
going through the motion, almost metronomic, yeah. But as of late, he's just really struggled to settle, and I can't really put my finger on what it is.
Ooh, do you know, I think I could take a little shot in the dark here with Sterling this season. More so in the F1 League that we run on a Tuesday. That, whilst we're talking about the F1 League on a Tuesday, you can catch that live tomorrow night on this exact Twitch channel.
There we go.
DSL Racing League. Plugs for days. That is what we do here. We are commentators, but we are also advertisement boards for you all. That will be live tomorrow night from 7:15, 7:30 race start. That will be a great show to watch, but I think Sterling this year, I said this year because we're all into March.
So we're talking about temporary season.
This season, sorry. I think he's not had much luck. He's had a handful of incidents that have been out of his power. Which, as you know yourself, mate, you've been in that little rut of just unfortunate runs of races which is, no fault of any other driver, because mistakes happen. But Sterling has had that little run in the F1 League where he's had contact made, maybe got caught up in someone else's crash up front and then got caught up in that mistake, or someone's hit him and then his race is ruined. And I think personally for me, being a big user like Sterling, confidence is key. It really is. And as soon as you start doubting your inputs on your wheel, on your pedals, where you put in your car, that then it shows on circuit, because your lap time, for myself personally, from just experience this season, once you start to second guess how well your race is going to go, it's always going to go badly, because you're thinking rather than reacting. You're getting into a braking zone and thinking, where should I brake, rather than just braking upon impulse and reactive nature kind of thing. And I think Sterling this season has had a few where he's had a few races. I think he had 4 races in a row where he got punted, shunted, crashed into, got caught in someone else's mess. And that, as you know yourself, mate, it does something to you on circuit.
Yeah.
You start to overthink. You start to overcompensate for things, and then you start to push too hard. And that's the kicker, is you start to overdrive your car, which then you make more mistakes. Then it's a vicious little circle where you start to ponder what you're doing wrong. When, big great little save there from Sterling on the exit there on that banking. Little bit of oversteer on the exit, slight little bit of opposite lock. Love to see that, but it does something to you.
Yeah,
and it does
100%.
a lot to yourself, because you start just to doubt yourself a little bit, and you get a little bit wary of racing wheel to wheel, because you start to think, is it me making the mistakes, causing the crash, or are crashes happening around me, and it's not my fault? And I'm sure you'll agree here, sir, is that I don't think Sterling's the kind of man that will point fingers. I think he's far too nice in nature. I think he's far too good in heart to sit there and say, that's your fault, that's your fault. I think he's just accepted that this season in F1 has been a little bit lackluster for himself, which is rubbish, because he's a great driver to race against. You know, yourself has had great battles with him, myself in the RR in season 1 and season 2. He's great to race with on. I'm gonna just pause here momentarily on this Sterling talk, because James Mason is all of a sudden, mate, on the back of Senna, out of absolute nowhere. There was a 4.5-second gap there to P1, so I've ignored it, because lads on circuit deserve camera time. But young master James Mason here has, I don't know whether Senna has crashed, has spun, had a little bit of a wobble, or just struggling, but James Mason, mate, 3.5 tenths behind Senna now, coming into the final sector.
I think he's slowed up, because I've been on board with him the majority of the time. There's been no real major mistakes. I think he's literally just dropped back to have a bit of fun here, to be honest.
Oh.
I mean, we've got about 14 laps to go. They're looking very kind of processional. So I think he's just dropped back to have a little bit of fun and give something to drive at. I just want to touch on one final point with Sterling. I think it's very, very easy in his position to then, even talking to him, he's kind of discounted himself. Just thinking, well, what am I doing wrong, doing this, doing that, I'm not quick anymore, blah, blah, blah. This man forgets that on the few races that he has been in there and settled, this man got podiums. He's got P4s, he's got P5s, on what is a very, very fast grid. So,
absolutely,
I say, on the races where he can settle, he's still there or thereabouts. But I say, for whatever, a mixture of incidents and then sort of self-doubt or mistakes or whatever, early on I think he really sort of struggled to settle. But yeah, he's still shown, and he's still perfectly capable when he does settle. He's as good as anybody on that grid.
I couldn't agree more. I said, mate, podium, I think it was last week, was it? I think it was.
Yeah, last week. Yeah, it was in France.
Around France, yeah. Around the Paul Ricard circuit. Sterling bagged himself a cheeky P3. Oh, mate, I think you're right, but I think Senna is all about having a scrap here. Which, again, what makes this league so special? What makes the community that they've got here so special is that.
Well, I'm hoping that he's not got an issue, because he is revving the hell out of this Renault. I'm really hoping he's not got like a paddle issue.
I mean, that could be a possibility.
It'd be very unfortunate if it is.
I'm not too sure. I'm sure we'll find out after the race if he does have an issue.
Because he literally went through the stadium in.
It is. Oh yeah, he's
year
absolutely
two.
ragging.
He's riding third here, so I reckon. I hope not, because that would be so harsh on him. But I reckon he's got a paddle issue. Maybe the paddle or a button's not registering his upshifts, or. So that would be very unfortunate if it is.
Oh yeah, because the downshifts don't seem to be coming as well. We will keep an eye on that. That is for saying. But just to go back to the point that we're going to make about this set of lads that are here for the moment that we're watching throw around this great little circuit that is Zandvoort, is one thing this league does very well. One thing this league offers that I think is really good is that the set of lads that we race with, myself, yourself, and lads in chat and whatnot, is they've all raced with each other for so long now that sometimes where you finish on the grid doesn't matter at all. Because if you get to have a scrap with a lad, perfect. It's great, and all the lads that we've raced with on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, well, you mostly yourself now, but on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, is we've all been there, done that, with each and every one of us. And speaking of, I think Senna has got an issue, mate, because he's. Is he? I can't work out whether Senna has an issue, or he's just slowing up a little bit. Yeah, just to fight Sterling.
I mean, he's resorted. He did the whole entire sector 3 on the last lap in 6th gear.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it's almost like he disconnected his wheel, and now his car is going through the gears correctly. So either this is Senna bot driving while he's trying to fix something, because he's gone from revving the crap out of everything to then sitting in sixth for the entire time, and now it's fine. So I don't know if this is Senna bot driving while Senna is frantically punching his wheel off screen.
He's frantically shaking his desk around like an angry gorilla in a zoo waiting for feeding time, possibly. But
as I say, James has got away. So if this is Senna driving, he's got a hell of a job to do to get back to 10 seconds.
He has indeed.
Sterling
James
is closing.
lap younger as well on his tyres. So will that pay dividends in the last 10 laps?
I'd be very surprised. As I say, you could be on these tyres for 2 weeks.
Yes,
they are very tracks, and I think you'd be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really hope it's not an issue for Senna, because that would absolutely suck.
Hopefully not. But whilst we're here, mate, whilst the battles are kind of fizzing out a little bit on the grid, we've spoken highly of Senna, of Sterling. I think James Mason needs no introduction for who he is, and how young he is, and how talented that young man is, which he is. He's a very young man, and the driving talent he showcases week in and week out is phenomenal. He's a great young man to race with, respectful, he's fast, but it's that respect on circuit that he has at a very young age that for me makes him one of the better lads to race with, because he's so respectful on circuit. The space that he gives, the room that he gives with every driver he races against, is absolutely fantastic. But we will go down the grid and we will shout out some of these boys, to be honest with you, because the recent game has shown a lot of improvements for a lot of drivers. Some of the boys that have improved massively aren't racing tonight, so we won't mention those. But what I will mention is Angry Table, because in the first season of the RR, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, we've been in a fight with him and whatnot, in the first season of the RR, it felt like he had a magnet towards my car. We had a few incidents on circuit that he openly apologised for, if need be, which is, for me, I'm completely over the incident straight away. If a driver can just be like, okay mate, my bad, I kind of made a doozy, then I'm already over that incident. But Angry Table, more so on the league on a Tuesday, mate, he has come on leaps and bounds. He's gone from really having a hard time getting into, like, past Q1 to now setting lap times that are contesting Q1, and maybe some weeks, mate, pushing Q2 into Q3. And it's something that I love to see, is when drivers just get a little bit of love back from the game, get a little bit of TLC back from the game, from their talent, and they start to make leaps and bounds, start to grow as drivers. More importantly, growing confidence. That is the massive thing, is growing in confidence on circuit. And Angry Table, in this recent season of the DSL F1 League, has come on leaps and bounds. Speaking of leaps and bounds, Senna has just lost out to Sterling up front. I don't know whether he has an issue still. His car seems to be shifting okay. It seems to be
shifting. I'm wondering if it's Senna bot driving. We don't obviously get an issue with that.
Do we on this game?
We don't get an indication. So I don't know whether it's Senna bot driving, or Senna is literally just having to manage what is a very annoying and I feel for him, I really do.
Sure, we will find out. Very bad issue. It is indeed. What you don't want to see is one of the sharper drivers on circuit.
Yeah, there's no worse feeling as a racing driver about dealing with something that you don't have any control over or you haven't instigated.
I can absolutely, wholeheartedly can agree with you there, sir. There is nothing worse when, like, just your equipment might. Oh, James Mason riding every exit curve you can imagine, and some there. Hopped on board with him real quick as he went through turn 3 and 4, very gingerly, opting for the Colin McRae route. It seemed over the dirt, over the hills,
Still
over the
throwing
bumps.
dirt up.
That was incredible.
Yeah, just
How
to
did he
touch
get
on
that
this young
cast?
man, I think you're right. This is probably the greatest. It's one of the best examples of progression, because I think when he first started racing, as is normal for a young man, very brash. He was prone to obviously the mistake, the old incident, a little bit of banging, a little bit of misjudgment. But the way he's kind of matured and taking his father's obvious amazing driving talent, putting speed that he's then put into the car. I think he's learned a lot off his own man, because he's now a very level-headed, very rarely sort of isn't as sort of pushy as he used to be, not as pushy, not as brash, should we say. But yeah, I think a lot of these boys have. We've been racing with them a long time. A lot of these guys. It's nice to see.
I think it's almost 3 years now. I think
it's got to be, especially with some of them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, so every guy on circuit has plenty of time in with each other to, you know. But as you said, you know, one thing that you mentioned there is James Mason's father is, you know, which is Turbo. John, I'm sure he won't mind me saying his name on stream. Everyone knows that his name is John. Still in and Senna here, having a little bit of a no you sir here. I think these two boys just want to race and get stuck in. That I absolutely love. This isn't a serious league on Mondays. This is just racing fans who are fans of racing. Senna says absolutely fucking to that breaking board.
Sod you to that brake
absolutely.
marker. He's obviously stealing an insult at his mother. He's just absolutely wrecked.
That breaking board, absolutely get to fuck, as Senna says there to that breaking board. But as I was saying, Turbo, you know, not in here tonight, not racing with us in the leagues on a Monday, but there's races on a Tuesday, races now on a Wednesday as well. Again, not here tonight, but I think it would be very hard to not to mention James and not mention
100%,
John as well, because Turbo, as you all know, all love Turbo, great man off circuit, a very humble man, very respectful man, but on circuit, tenfold and some. That man is a joy to race against, and you can very much see that, you said earlier, as much as it sounds a little bit cliche, but he's very clearly, James, he's getting a little bit of that maturity from his father on circuit, because as you said, he's not making as many brash moves, not getting that rush of blood, is what I like to call it. Just that little rush of blood you get when you're racing and the hands are tingling and you've got adrenaline coursing through your body, and you're like, oh, I've got to run here, send it. You know, he's very much gained and grown as a driver. You know, if anything, mate, they've both grown with each other, because John himself has made so many improvements.
Yeah, he's so good.
John was pushing Q2 last Tuesday. Like, he was on the fringe of pushing out of Q1. Great stuff. Things everyone wants to see.
Earlier this season, he put me out of Q3.
He did.
Cheeky bugger.
Absolutely. Said, see you, Monsieur AJ. I'm taking that spot in qualifying.
So, one kidney Jim coming in saying he's feeling gutted for Doc. It's one of his favourite tracks, but yeah, Doc's had a bit of a torrid time around Zandvoort, but I'd say very, very brave, very much respect to Doc for basically just thinking, look, I'm hopping on a game I've never played effectively, because I've never done it on a wheel. I love the circuit. I'm in a ridiculously overpowered Renault car that is probably not built for this circuit. And
not whatsoever.
He's just basically thought, just sod it, and he hasn't given up. He's still going 32 laps in.
Exactly.
And he just said, look, sod it, I'm going to give it a go. I mean, how far is he off it? He can't be far off fatal. No, he's not. He's literally the second DRS zone. That's the only thing between him and Fatal now. I think it is Fatalbot. Fatalbot, I think, driving at the moment because I don't see him
Yes,
in
he
the
has
lobby
been
after
ghosted
leaving.
yeah, he's been ghosted for the majority, mate. James Mason there letting Doc Strange through. That I love seeing that. Like it's silly because like there's no to it, but James there is just gone, mate, fly away, chief. You've got fresher tyres. I'm in no rush. You're in no rush. Off you pop.
Yeah, I think he's dropped back to pick up Sterling as well. James,
Yeah,
so
mate,
we're gonna see a little bit of fighting with these.
Absolutely.
I'll keep an eye on
James.
Doc clawing back Fatal. I think that's going to be a nice little achievement if Doc grabs Fatal for P7. But I'll let you focus on this. I'll focus on that too. Tell you what, I'm going to jump on board with Dale. I'll let you focus on the
Yes,
top
I was
two
about
while
to
they
say,
have a bit
we've
of
got
fun.
Del Boy down the back in the middle pack, off the back of the table, and Sterling here chasing young Master James Mason through the ever-flowing Sector 2 of this Zandvoort circuit. Bankings for days. Hills up and down, side to side. Like a roller coaster is this circuit. It is such a joy to drive. The changes in camber around this circuit, every corner at Zandvoort feels like a new challenge. There's a lot of circuits where you can get into a rhythm, like somewhere like Silverstone for me is really easy after about 10 laps just to know where you're going, know where you've been, because it's flat. There's no changes in like any kind of elevation changes around Silverstone. Nothing really goes on much. While Zandvoort, there's so many changes, like turn 1, camber, so easy at going deep, wash out, get the rear flying around, turn 3 and 4. Be turn 4, as it comes up now on ball still. Look at that banking, look at the angle that banking gives you, which prompts its own little list of problems. It's so easy at going deep there if you get unsettled through turn 3. That compromises turn 4 entry, turn 4 exit. If you go in too hot on turn 4, you're absolutely ruined. There's no saving that lap time through sector 2 and 3 because then it's just flat out through the rest of sector 2. It's a great little circuit. It gives drivers every chance, I think, for the guy in front to get off that curb. Sterling, you brave little minx. That is one curb you do not want to ride. That is for certain. That made me wince seeing his tyre ride upon that exit and entry apex. That makes Sterling, good catch, good save. Almost full opposite lock there on Sterling. I wouldn't mind seeing a camera shot of his rig there and his facial expressions. I'm sure he was very much looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost there, I would imagine.
Yeah,
having to catch that
100%.
spin. That is for certain.
But Senna's issues seems to have gone as 2 fastest laps in a row for the owner of the league. So hopefully that is everything fixed. I mean, he's got, they say it's 2 laps, so it's unfortunate it is.
He's got a job.
He's not come back sooner. He's got a chase on here though. Del Boy and Angry Table has kind of almost fizzled out a little bit, really. I think Del Boy is getting washed out. Angry Table's hit a pen in the meantime as well, almost just after I cut to him. So they're level pegging in terms of pens.
Indeed.
But yeah, Del Boy just dropped out of what would be the DRS in the newer cars. Obviously, nothing of that sort on these cars. I think we saw it once, maybe with one Pablo Montoya, didn't we, where he got a bit of debris, basically took out the lower barn board, so he effectively had a DRS for the whole race. But yeah, so this kind of a little bit fizzled out into a nice sort of steady gap between the two of them. The question now is, can Senna get back to these top 2?
Senna.
Yeah,
not too sure why his name had a TH. Mate, well, there you go.
Sterling has let
put on.
I think they've let Senna in front.
You have
that
indeed.
is sportsmanship.
I'll tell you what, Jamesy boy.
From both James and Sterling, that is very, very good. They're going to fight it out for this last lap.
Absolutely.
And they are going to repay Senna for where he was before he was struck by what we assumed to be paddle or button related issues.
Yes. Absolutely.
As Senna leads them round at the top of the hill, destroys another markboard. One with a distance on it. He's obviously got something against the manufacturer. I think it's DHL. I think those ones are.
I think it's just a case of he hates Red Bull, and this is Red Bull's home circuit for Max. I think it is just saying, I'm going to take out everything on this circuit. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to cost cap you beyond belief. Is what it's made. This is going to be a great little ding dong here on this final lap. James Mason right behind, not close enough though, it seems. 7/10 behind, coming onto the banking. Final lap of the race. Sportsmanship shown from P2 and P3 latest, and they're back in front upon, as we said, assuming issue with his rig. I would imagine DSL Senna then taking the win. P1 James Mason, P2 Sterling doing a great job for his championship biddings there. P3 recovery drive very, very well indeed. He had a hard time on that wet compound tyre. Table and Delboy 4 and 5, scrapping it out through that entirety of the race. It felt like Sir Smokes, I think, will be happy and content with P6. Fatal Shots bot looking like a bot. Doc Strange, got to give a massive shout out here to Doc Strange, sat in P8, not representative of his pace, that is for certain, but
he was agonisingly close to getting Fatal Bot as well.
Was indeed, but tonight, reinstalled the game tonight, got in, hadn't played this game on his rig for a decent hot minute, has hopped in on one of the most, for me, one of the most technical circuits on the grid. Because it's fast,
tough. Yeah, 100%
really,
tough.
really fast. The braking zones are tricky, the camber, the banking's really, really hard. That is a great
and considering considering he has never driven it on a rig.
Exactly.
That is
very
ballsy
unbelievable stint from Doc Strange. And all the lads, for that matter, mate, those few laps in the wet, so easy for a pile-up.
With the driver of the day, the slightly furious furniture man.
Yes. The gears, that's what we thought, Senna. That's what we thought on board. It looked like your gears were having a little bit of a ding dong.
Nice to show that I am being Ted Kravitz with my deductions. That was straight away what I was thinking. But I suppose I have been referred to as our community's Ted for a while, so I will take it.
Absolutely, mate. So well. James Mason had to let Senna pass. Can't take people on that. Mate, James, absolute utmost respect for that, sir, because I would think the exact same way. A P1 wouldn't feel justified knowing the guys behind would had an issue that he can't control. Mate, GG's to all drivers tonight. Conditions wasn't easy on that first stint, that is, mate, that's for certain. Those wet conditions in those cars, as you said, mate, you as blind as a bat behind the gearbox. The amount of spray in their face was simply unbelievable.
Honestly, I think Delboy deserves some credit. I think he had to use echolocation for the first 4 or 5 laps of that.
Oh, Matt, Joe, wholeheartedly agree. All the drivers, well done. GG's, huge kudos for keeping the cars clean on circuit around Zandvoort in those treacherous conditions. Great stuff from all the drivers. Well, AJ, final thoughts. Final thoughts, sir.
Final thoughts. The first thought I have, you are about to call me Senna. Second thought, that was a great race. Third, I was very jealous. That looked a lot of fun. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the wet stuff so much. I would have probably had about 15 heart attacks.
Yes.
But yeah, it looked great fun, great respect shown. As I said, this league, they don't care who wins. It's just a case of having a nice laugh and a joke. All about the fun.
Exactly, mate. Thank you very much, sir, for joining me tonight, mate. It's been a pleasure, as always. Commentary with you is always. In fact, is this our first stint as comms together? Have we done comms before?
It may well be. I think we've maybe done one RR race.
Can't recall. I can't recall. But regardless, I digress. Mate.
I'm expecting the contract offers to come through from Senna for us to do this.
I'm expecting a paycheck through tonight, Senna. So if you're listening, I will text you my bank details a little later on, and you can pay me in full.
And you will get my PayPal information.
There
and I will wait it to land tomorrow for my lunch. So.
There we go. Lunch is on, Senna. Boys, drivers, GG's, huge respect.
Indeed, GG's.
Getting through there in one piece for the entirety of that race. That is going to be me for tonight, and Monsieur AJ, as I just said, always a pleasure, never a chore, having this man in my ears with his dulcet little tones in my.
Indeed, and it was 3-0 in the voice cracks.
Yes, and I'm 3-0 down on voice cracks, so I've got some time to gain with my throat. That is for certain. Right, boys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming, stopping by, watching these glorious old F1 cars go around a classic circuit as well. That made that more nostalgic for me, is the fact that Zandvoort is a new circuit to us now again, because it was taken off the calendar for so many years. It's only just come back. So to get a little throwback there of the older F1 cars going around there as a racing fan, beautiful. Beautiful. Right, we'll be back tomorrow night, boys. Is what we will be for, I don't know. I'm not even going to lie and pretend that I know what round it is tomorrow, because I don't. Nor do I know this. I do know the circuit. It's Hungary tomorrow. Is what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, good save.
We will be back tomorrow.
I'm not driving, but I know where we're racing.
Yeah,
the actual commentator doesn't have no idea.
I will fight you. It's what I will do. Mate, that is all from us on the DSL Racing League channel. Join us back here tomorrow for the Hungarian Grand Prix in the F1 DSL Racing League. That is set to be a good one. That grid is quick from P1 all the way down to the bottom of the grid. They are separated by nothing. That is going to be a good watch, great watch. Hopefully we'll see you all back here tomorrow night for that. But for now, that's going to be the way, the last way. AJ, one last time, thank you, sir. For coming.
Thank you very much. Enjoy. And thanks for that.
Have a good night. Have a great Monday.